It's really great to have you back, Ben, and always look forward to your view. And the world seems to be acting like everything's okay. And, maybe it is okay, but there's so many things going on. I'm interested in the Epoch cycle and what it's telling you going into the end of the year.
Yeah, I think Dale, it's good that you asked that question because I was thinking about the topic and what we were going to do a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you know what? It's time to go deeper into the epic cycle. It's time to, get a little more detail and a little more visibility because of where we are in the cycle. I mean, we are coming up on sort of the what I call the final phase. So I think it's important we go into that and see what are the ramifications, what are the, again, nobody alive on earth today has ever gone through this. So we don't really know what it's going to be like and what's going to happen. We just know what the background frequencies and the cycle is going to support. So based on that, we can make some inferences. And I think, there's a lot of smart people that you talk with every morning, all the team you have there at ForexAnalytix. And I want you guys to think about it too. Like, what are the possible ramifications given these factors that we're going to be there? Because I don't think any one person is going to be able to figure this out. But I think putting these minds together and having other,
Collectively.
yeah, we can come up with okay, what are the possible angles here from an investment standpoint. So we're going to do the it's going to be a little bit different than we've done the last few times. We'll cover the major cycles. We'll start with the 70s and what's going on,
Let me
connections
just
there.
get an update on, I know what your positioning has in case it's changed. Still bullish the dollar?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a dip to buy.
Yep.
Still bullish gold, you're getting great action.
Absolutely.
Still bullish Bitcoin, hell of a
Yes.
rally.
Yep.
And S&P risk, that wasn't it. So that's still set up for like February of next year.
No, the S&P is interesting. I'm in Blake's camp and I've been sort of tactically going long, tactically going short, depending upon where we are in this kind of range that we've been in.
Okay, so you think it's a range.
But next year, second half of next year is when I think the dam breaks. So until then, I think you got to be tactical. Once we get to that point, that's when the next sort of big short setup's going to be.
Okay, mid-year, so the market will be under pressure into the 2024 elections. That should be fun.
Oh yeah, that's going to be wild, I think.
Oh, okay, buddy, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're gonna go deeper into the epic cycle and talk about this final phase that we're entering, for the current cycle. We're in the last few years of a 400-year cycle. And then we'll go into the why I think we're seeing this trading range, because there is a narrative battle. It's the inflation versus deflation camp, disinflation or deflation camps that are fighting it out. And as one narrative takes hold, whether okay, yeah, we're in an inflation regime, a certain thing happens in the markets, and then when the disinflation or deflation camp takes the lead, something else happens in the market. And I think it's a secular versus cyclical thing that we'll talk about, and then we'll go into the various markets that we want to highlight. So let's jump in here. As you know, Dale, for the last 4 years or so since I've been coming on, we've been talking about this connection of
Yeah.
of present day to the 70s. The
But Nixon wasn't able to run for re-election and be president again.
and maybe we're
So
going to see that.
that's a different scenario, isn't it? I mean, that was it. He faded off the scene, went into hiding. The opposite happened with Mr. Trump.
The opposite happened with Mr. Trump, but if you look at, if I know we don't compare Nixon to Biden, but maybe the same fate's going to be Joe Biden's fate. Like
Oh, yeah, maybe.
he's not
Oh,
going to get to run again. Maybe we'll see. We'll
okay.
see.
Anyway, I just think that it's, uh, unusual for and I'm thinking maybe that's part of the epic cycle because it's so unusual that a president can lose an election and then come back 4 years later and run again. Has
Yeah.
that ever happened in our lifetime? I
I
don't think
think
so.
not in our lifetime, but I think one president did that. I forget who it was, like Buchanan or someone, uh,
Oh, okay.
either came
Pa-
back and ran again or something. I can't remember
okay.
exactly. But
All
the
right.
the the key one is that we're working off of now is the Jimmy Carter, Joe Biden, and we got another hit on the connection. Not a pleasant one, but there's the Yom Kippur War of '73, and of course we
Yeah.
had the war broke out last month between Hamas and Israel. This
Yeah.
one is an interesting one too. And anybody that was around in the '70s, I was just a little kid, but I do remember Carter's crisis of confidence speech. Remember that one?
Um, I think I was playing basketball.
Anyway,
Oh, you were a baby, but
yeah, it was basically about, you know, the only crisis Carter was saying is your perceptions and confidence and people's
yeah.
beliefs. And if I swear to God, it came back with this whole last summer when they started with this Bidenomics thing. Like, you
Yeah.
don't know how great the economy is. Let us tell you how great it is when everyone's saying how hurting they are and their finances are. And the bottom line of there is that real wages have gone down for 2 straight years because of the effects of inflation, and that's why people are feeling terrible about it. But the parallels again between the '70s and now, they just keep coming back. And if you go back and look it up on YouTube, if you never saw it, look at the crisis of confidence speech by Carter. It's the same sort of plaintive thing, like, don't you know how good things are? They're not as bad as you think. And it's the same message that the Biden administration was getting out there with this Bidenomics stuff. So these connections are still there. What does that mean? Is that, the key characteristics of that period were economic malaise, inflation, and war. There was war, and we're seeing those themes crop up again and again and again, time and again, in the present day.
Okay.
Now let's dive into the epic cycle. We've talked about this cycle for 3 or 4 years now that I've been on with Dale and doing these interviews. And it's hard to focus on a cycle when it's 400 years, because how do you trade a 400-year cycle?
Big
Well,
stops. You need real big stops.
big wide stops, yeah, year-long stops. But the thing here, that the reason why it's so important is it guides, sort of the overall trend and the overall direction of society and the globe. And right now we're entering the very last phase of this. We've been in this phase that I've talked about, of where we were losing confidence and trust in the system and the institutions and the organizations that we've created to run our societies. And there's, all kinds of evidence of that. You see it every day, and it seems like people are getting numb to it now. Well, the phase that we're moving into is not just a loss of confidence and trust, but the actual failure of those systems. And I think what we're in the process of seeing is that this covenant between governments and people is breaking and is broken. In other words, we made a pact years ago where, okay, we're going to have an elective democracy, or we're going to have these governments. We agree to pay taxes. We agree to follow these laws, provided that they do things that are in our best interest as a collective. And there's the perfect example. I have it. It's a local government thing. Here we have this road where it was 2 lanes, a split road, 2 lanes on each side, and 71% of the people in the area wanted to keep it that way. And yet the people in charge shut down one side of it to make a walking trail. And they've caused traffic problems and issues, and everybody's upset about it. But it was an example of where the governments are no longer accountable to us. They seem to be doing what they want. And, another example is here locally. I went in last year for the election. I went in to vote, and the choice for one thing, it was like that wasn't a county commissioner, but it was some position on a county or some board, and every single person on there was from one party. And as I was looking at it, I said, we don't have a choice here. And the issue is not whether they're not accountable to us anymore. They're accountable to the party, whatever party it is. And so I think that that's a lot of the discontent we're seeing with people, is that disagreements between the society and the governments and the people is no longer valid, and the ramifications for that are huge, which I'm going to talk about next. And also it appears in this epoch now that we're heading towards a multipolar world, not the hegemony we've seen for the last 150 years. Or if you look at, it was British hegemony, then it was our hegemony. You're talking about 300-400 years, like the whole cycle. So we're moving into an era where it looks like, I say, every man, in this case every country, for themselves. It's going to be a much less organized, much more messy, much more individual interest as opposed to a collective interest going on here.
Okay, what do you think about the message from space, that comet that was here 2 months ago? The last time it was visible on Earth was 400 years ago, so around the beginning of the epoch cycle.
Yeah.
And now it shows up again to put a period on it.
Exactly. It's like going to be the dramatic, sort of close of one, opening of another. And the key thing
when
about
I heard
this,
it was 400 years, you know who I thought of, right?
Yeah, I know. I remember you and I messaged and we were talking about that. It's true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. And the thing to think about this epoch cycle, I know there's the doomsdayers and the end of the world types. It's not the end of the world. This is an evolutionary process. And through evolution, something dies so that something new can be reborn. And that's exactly what we're going through. The scary part is we don't know how it's going to play out. How are things going to die, and what's the new system going to be like? We don't know for sure, but I can, and what I'm trying to do is share with you some of the possibilities and things where probabilities favor it, because this is what the cycle is going to support. 1616 was the last time we had this kind of change, and it's dramatic change. It's big change. In 2027, we're going to change again, similarly to how we did in 1616. Not with the same results, obviously, because it's a different cycle, but the magnitude and the effects of the change are going to be massive.
What were the big changes in 1616?
1616 was when we started seeing the exploration. Pilgrims, explorations, colonies, the expansion of
the world.
Sort of the world and civilization and the growth of the planet in terms of population and countries and organizations and wealth. All that stuff was that's when it got kicked into hyperdrive, because of the Dutch explorers, the Spanish explorers, the British explorers, all
the new world, all that land that they didn't know existed prior.
Exactly. So, and people that they didn't know existed. So here, and in the next 2 years, why I think this is so important to get into, we're in the final 2 years of a 400-year cycle. And this phase is where there's the deterioration and destruction to create the sort of fertile ground for whatever's coming next. What we do know is that everybody on the planet's going to be effective, and the change is going to be dramatically different than what we have experienced. Now, couple things. When you're talking about a 400-year cycle, it's not going to be you wake up one morning and the world is different. It's going to be a transition of probably 20 to 30 years as this new system gets established and sort of cemented into the way that things are going to be, to completely put it into place, it's probably not until 2100, about 70 years. But this, and you can, and when you look at, go back to 1616, if you study history a little bit, they started exploring, they started colonizing, but the sort of the democracy that would become the world power wasn't formed for over 100 years later. The US
Yeah.
wasn't officially formed until 1776.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's that. It's again, keep in mind, it's not like turning on and off a light switch. It's more of a gradual change in an implementation. But what we're going to experience in the next couple of years is real, and it's going to be pretty dramatic.
Okay.
This is a chart I put together, a slide to show all the different systems that we've over the last 3-4 years have been losing confidence in and losing faith in. The new one that I added in yellow is big cities. I mean, go just in our country, go around the country and look at, you got Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland. Major cities in this country that are just it's a mess. I mean, absolute mess. The sense of order, the sense of justice, of sort of organization and control in those cities is gone.
Unless G visits.
Right, unless she visits, then they buff it up and clean it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. They
But
put lipstick on a pig. That's what
it's
realtors do.
and it's a sort of a preview of what's coming. Cities as we know them are done. They're not going to function properly anymore. Major cities.
Okay.
Here's the screen that this is the one where I want everybody to think about it in their brain and think about the possible ramifications, knowing that these things are the major themes that are going to be supported. I call it the death of large cities. The new cycle will have no support for maintenance and the infrastructure in these cities. So maintaining the streets, if you look at San Francisco, providing the services that cities need and require, there's not going to be the resources for it. And this is again this theme of the bargain between the individual and the collective, or the taxpayer and society, has been broken. It's over. So the one major ramification I put here, and this was sort of tying in something that I was thinking about because of the amount of debt that has been issued by governments in this cycle, is we're going to see government defaults. Either people are going to stop paying taxes, or, as is happening right now, they're voting with their feet. Right? People are leaving California, they're moving to Tennessee, Idaho, Montana, Texas. People are leaving New York, they're moving to Georgia, South Carolina, Florida. They're going where the tax burden is huge, but the services that they were supposed to get based on these taxes they were paying are just not, they're not there anymore. So government defaults, I think we have to focus on that, and I'll talk about that a little bit in my outlook with the dollar.
Okay.
The next epoch is not going to support the growth in population like we've seen in this current epoch. The cycles are not supportive of population growth, and if you've studied economics, population growth and economic growth are connected. You cannot have economic growth if your population is shrinking. It just doesn't work. If you don't have the workers coming into the workforce, you don't get that productivity, you don't get that GDP growth. And that's something we have to know, is that we're moving into an era of subpar economic growth as compared to the previous epoch, where we saw massive growth. So
Is it
it's
strictly the demographics, which have been happening for a while, or other events, epic cycle events that can reduce global population, or possibly planned um, by the puppeteers to reduce population?
Well, I have highlighted war, and war certainly seemed to be choreographed and planned. So it may be natural events that result in population reduction too, like disease or famine, or it may be viruses and war that reduce the population. I don't know how it's going to play out. I have no idea, what the mechanisms are going to be. I just know that the cycle is going to not be supportive of what we've had in the previous one, which was, yes, we have good population growth. Yes, we have strong economic growth. Those things aren't going to be present. And maybe it's going to be because of, the perceptions and the effect on the humans in terms of what's important to them. Like we've come out of a very materialistic period, right? Where building things up and getting more and accumulating, that was the most important thing. Maybe that's going to change and affect the human behavior. And
Okay.
that kind of gets us to the
You mean
last one.
NFL guys aren't going to be getting like 4-year contracts for $100 million?
I don't know. It
Huh?
if it's not something that's valued by society, it's not going to happen, you know?
Okay. That's
Um,
crazy.
and here the focus going forward is going to be on individuals and not the collective, not society. So everything's going to be more locally concerned, like your little neighborhood, your little community, as opposed to a county, a state, a country. That the emphasis is going to be more on individual issues as opposed to the collective issues and societal issues. And that's going to have ramifications too. What they are, this is what I think the group needs to think about. If the focus is on the individual, what's going to be? I have some ideas. I think it's going to be more of, where do I get my food? Where do I get my fuel? How do I take care of my family? That kind of stuff. You know,
Um,
more survival issues.
right.
Now let's
Okay.
let's talk about the narratives that are battling right now: inflation versus disinflation. Um, as you know, Dale, I'm convinced we're in a sort of a redo of the 70s. So for me, it's the argument always boils down to secular versus cyclical, right? I believe we are in a secular period of inflation where overall things are moving, prices are moving higher. It's going to be sticky. It's going to have periods and times where there's disinflation or even deflation. But the overall big trend is that prices are going higher and inflation is going to be a problem. And I think the push and the pull we've seen in the market, with these strong rallies, sharp sell-offs, reversals, and all, is this what one of the narratives takes hold. This is what happens because bonds and stocks and risk have been positively correlated for a while now in this bear market. When we get the disinflation narrative that takes hold, bonds rally, risk rallies. And then when the inflation kicks up again and people say, yeah, inflation's not dead yet, it's still coming back, bonds get sold and risk gets sold. And we're going to, I think, continue to see that play out until the next actual crisis takes hold, which we'll get to the timing on that. I mean, have you seen that battle in terms of this narrative battle, Dale? Because I know you're on top of all the narratives.
Yes, I mean, this last rally was the match that lit it was yields peaking.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the days of I guess I'm an old timer. I thought there was going to be a possibility that we would have lower rates, and that the reason we were having lower rates would be a potential recession and stocks will get sold off. But definitely, it was just jet fuel for equities.
Yeah, no question about it. And you said it in the previous show. You said it's all one trade right now.
Yeah, well, so I mean, if you're bullish the dollar, almost everything should be declining,
Right.
don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, here's I think once the major trend takes hold, that's what we're going to see. And so the opportunities I see based on the epic cycle and where we are are, I think you got to play risk both ways tactically. Blake was talking about, I agree with his view that, you look to trade the upper end and the lower end of the range and just, rock the range. And I think what we've been doing, and I've been posting on Twitter on my Twitter feed is, there's a couple of good cycles that have been really, really hitting well. They caught the bottom of this last one. We caught the top in July, late July, early August. So I think you got to be tactical until the second half of next year, because that's when I think we're going to get the one narrative winning out, and we're going to see, a strong sell off and some panics, whether it's caused, by sovereign issues or some other sort of debt issue. That's what's coming next year, and I think that's when you can take your sort of your trader hat off and put your bear hat on and ride the market down. Then there's some epic cycle plays I want to talk about, like the ones we talked about before. I think you got to look at hard assets. I think you got to look at the commodity side. I do believe we're in a cycle of outperformance there. And if we are going to have these displacements and other issues associated with the epic cycle, hard assets are what people are going to value, right? It's going to get back to sort of, I don't know if it's the right word or not, but the word that comes to mind is more primal needs, right? And things that are solid and not, ephemeral are what people are going to value.
Have
and
you
that's
been
hard
long
assets.
energy products or this huge decline?
Not on nat gas. I've traded a couple times. I traded some on the oil side. I'm not kind of putting it away yet, sort of thing, because we're still seeing this belief in that demand's going to crash, and therefore we're going to have so much supply because we're getting a recession. I just think the supply demand dynamics have changed there in the commodity space. I think they're just going to be in short supply. So you got to trade them, especially if you're using the leverage products. But I mean, like
Where's the
gold.
bottom in WTI, Ben?
If we don't hold in this 73 area, and I'll show you on the chart, I think we could have a washout, because you know how all the commodities basically, before a big move in one direction, you get the false move in the opposite direction.
Clean out longs.
I think we're getting a clean out move right now in oil.
Okay.
So let's jump through the charts real quick, because I don't want to keep you late on a Friday. So here's this is right in here. We got the cycle change here for this short-term move. In July, we were looking at a late July high. We got that. So you got to trade these legs for now. The next big move, like I said, is not the big trending move where we get a directional, super strong move, and not these sort of tactical moves, is not going to be till, based on my cycle work, until looking like August, September of next year. And the fact that that's a few months before the election also has me thinking, what the hell is going to happen in that election? But we'll see.
Could we blow off to new highs? The melt up people are talking, I don't know, 5,400 to 6,000 S&Ps.
I don't know about that high, but I do think, if things get crazy next summer, sure. You get a rally next year on some sort of optimism that it's soft landing and no problems. And then, we get some sort of debt crisis or political crisis around the election, late summer, early fall. And that could really, really set it up for a big, big down, especially if everybody, gets on one side of the boat in a melt up. So it's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
NQ's similar, right? Trade it, be tactical for now. And cash, holding cash is not a bad thing. I got a lot of cash in my retirement plans, and I'm really happy to be there, just waiting for the fat pitch, as Stan Druckenmiller likes to say.
And what's that? What's a fat pitch that you're waiting for?
Like if we get a blow off in equities, a short in equities there,
Okay.
If we get a clean out move in crude, that I think we might into the low 60s, that would be a great fat pitch.
Well,
Gold,
let
if
me ask you this, Ben. Where do you have like your assets domiciled? Looking at this, I mean, do you feel comfortable there? I mean, there's still banking problems,
Mhm.
and you're talking about debt problems and the whole system being reset. Um, do you feel secure in these institutions that you think are going to go away to keep assets there?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? That's why having some
It is a problem.
physical gold or physical silver is not a bad idea.
Yeah. How about
That
cash outside your IRA and your under your mattress?
or in a nice floor safe somewhere.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
a bad idea. I mean,
So I mean, what?
I'm not a doomsday prepper, but you got to be
Okay.
smart when you're going through the last days of a 400-year cycle that nobody alive has ever been through. You have to have some contingency plans, right? You have to
Oh,
think like that.
so I mean, really, where do you keep your assets in this culmination of the cycle that you could count on them being returned to you if you want them?
Yeah, I mean, I would personally only the big major banks right now. I know you've talked a lot about them trying to wipe out the regional banks, and they may end up doing it. So um, you got to protect your assets. I think holding your own physical metals and some cash is not bad. Uh, the
Is the CBD? Go ahead.
Bitcoin's a way to get out of the system, so having some of that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Um, how about how does CBDC fit into the last couple of years of the cycle? Will it be implemented before the cycle ends or after? What do you think?
I think they're going to try, but it's going to fail because think about that. That's something
All,
from the old cycle, right?
yeah, that's
Because
ultra control.
exactly. And so it's not individual, it's not dispersed, it's not it's and the funny thing in watching the cycle, Dale, is you can see how the desperation of the people who have control now trying to expand it and hold on to it as the cycle's turning against them. It's kind of like sort of the last gasps of a drowning man type thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's what they're trying to do is not supported by what's coming, and that's the good news. The bad news is we don't know what's coming. We'll have to see what happens. So gold, I think you got to own gold. It's a confidence in the system type thing, and if the system's going down, gold should soar. Same with silver. And you can see these are monthly charts. So these things have been basing. They haven't really pulled back a whole hell of a lot off their recent highs. They've just been kind of going sideways, which tells me that there's people accumulating them and they want to own these assets. Here's Bitcoin, as Dale said, since we last met. Nice little rally there. I'm a little concerned about the fact that the powers that be may want to kill this thing. So I'm a little cautious there, but I do think the premise of Bitcoin certainly is supported by where we're going in the big cycles.
If they're
Crude,
going to
here's
kill it, that's there are other ways for it to be useless, like no internet.
yeah, yep.
I think people in Australia just went through that.
And you know what, Dale? I was thinking about that too because again I'm trying to think big picture, and I want you all to do the same thing. Elon Musk's Starlink is probably a fantastic way to play this whole dislocation.
Yeah.
It's not relying on the government in any way. He's putting up this private satellite network to give you internet access and stuff. So I don't know if he's ever going to try and take it public or give people access a way to play it, but I think that sort of thing, like a private system, is going to be an alternative that we're going to see to the current systems.
Okay.
Anyway, there's
Yeah.
crude. That's the move that they might be doing, Dale. So maybe they
Yeah.
take it down and we take out, false break on the lows we saw here in 23, in
Where
2022,
I don't see the
2023.
price. What was that price? 60?
It's around 60, yeah, 60,
Yeah. Okay.
62 in that area.
Okay. All
It's
right.
possible they try a clean out move. If they do, I think it'll just be, one to get long on. I heard you
Okay.
talking about this a couple weeks ago, nat gas.
Yeah.
We broke out of this little triangle. This was about a 6-8 month triangle, so it's a hell of a base. And now we're just back testing the breakout. So I
Yeah.
think nat gas looks good to own that. Um, Soybeans look really good. Again, has not corrected much off of the highs it made on this first run, unlike corn and wheat that have pulled back pretty sharply. So I think owning some ags and owning food is not a bad thing in what's coming. Cotton's one I really like. It's been building a base for many, many, many months. And as you know, commodities go sideways and do nothing for a long time, and then they explode. All you got to do is go back and look at cocoa to see what can happen. Cocoa broke out of a multi-year base, and it's just continuing to make new highs now. Coffee's another one. Hasn't pulled back dramatically. It's holding support, starting to reverse. I think you can look at coffee. Here's the dollar. The dollar, I'm not. Brent Johnson has his milkshake theory, and I'm not a milkshake guy. I don't actually know what he means by milkshake, but my my theory on the dollar, why I'm bullish on the dollar is it's going to be the tallest midget,
Mm-hmm.
right? All fiats are going to die, right? They're going to die. It's inevitable. Um, the dollar will just be the last one. And so money, assets, capital is going to come into the dollar when things start falling apart, which is why I think we'll see all this dollar strength. Doesn't mean the dollar's going to, survive and be the reserve currency and all this other stuff, but it'll be the last to fall.
Okay.
And so that's the theory with the dollar. And then we'll end with bonds. Bonds, this white line here, Dale, is a 40-year trend line. So we just finished a 40-year bull market in bonds. Ended in 2020. I don't think we're going to get away with just a 3 or 4 year bear market in bonds.
No.
After a 40-year run. So are we getting a bounce? Absolutely. We actually have a monthly reversal, so we got an up bar. Maybe we get a couple, 3, 4, 5, even 6 months up.
Where's that take at 110?
It can go. It can
108?
go if we go all the way up to the line. We can get up to about 120,
Okay.
125.
Yeah.
But I do think there's new lows coming. I think higher interest rates are coming, and I think that's based on the fact that we're in a cyclically or a secular period of higher inflation.
So we have this bond market rally into the spring, and then inflation starts to we start getting bad numbers again. Maybe crude has bottomed on its way up, and the Fed, just like the 70s, had to come in 2 more times before they
Yeah.
broke it.
Yep.
Is that what
I
you're
do think
thinking?
I think we're going to see the same thing, like a 3 drive inflation pattern.
Okay. We
And
completed one, we're pulling back, and then we're going to have two, a pullback, and then three.
right.
So that I don't know how many years when the first tightening cycle started in the 70s, but I know the last one was 79, 80.
Yeah, I think it was,
So,
believe it or not, the late 60s was the first one, the first
oh my
tightening
God,
cycle.
14 years of doing
Yeah.
that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
so I do think we're in for that kind of thing. The bigger picture and the themes that I discussed are basically to help people understand and be prepared for what's coming. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. I just know that we're going to see things very differently over the next 2 to 3 years. And then going forward, when the new system comes in, in the next 20 to 30 years, things are going to be different. Doesn't mean they're going to be better, worse, the same. It's just going to be different, and we have to be open to that, and have an idea of what is going to be supported in the new cycle, and know.
Ben, oh, go ahead.
And I was going to say, and know that what's currently being supported is going to be destroyed.
Okay, Ben, yeah, I think this is the most important question
Mm-hmm.
that anyone has ever asked you about the Epoch cycle because it's not really market related. I'd like to know how you, with your beliefs of what's ahead of us, is able to overcome that and enjoy the now.
That's a great question. That is a great question. I think the main thing I look at is that I can't control what happens tomorrow, next year, 10 years, 20 years from now. All I can do is control what I can deal with today, which is how do I put myself and my family in a position where we're secure today? What do I do today? So while I have these big picture themes in mind, when I'm trading, I'm fairly tactical,
Forex
right?
Gal said day trade.
That's right. You've got to be tactical. Maybe not day trade, but that's one of the options. Um, have contingency plans, right? Be thinking about, don't go all in, don't YOLO, don't, all the stuff that was happening in the excessive part of the cycle. Don't get into that, right? Don't focus on that. Focus on how do I get into a trade where I have good risk reward, and I have the cycles at my back, right? The odds in my favor.
Okay. All right. I do it with gratitude
Gratitude's a great
because
thing, right? You're grateful for
because
what
if
you
you
have.
yeah, because you can't be grateful and worried and depressed simultaneously.
Mm-mm.
So staying in the now is filled with gratefulness for today. That today is a great day.
Yeah, and
And I'm just saying there are times I have a difficulty with what I see coming, and having it kind of enter my psychology about in my life.
mhm.
And it's really not an optimist. You could say it's not the end of the world, but it's a different world. And I don't know about you, Ben, but I'm pretty attached to the world I grew up in, and sorry to see it evaporating.
It is. It's sad, right? That's the death part. That's the death. Something's dying,
Yeah,
and we have to look at the something's being reborn, right?
I've
So
tried those too, Forex Gal.
so the
Anyway,
no, it's a great point, Dale. And one of the things that you do is focus on today, right?
yeah,
Focus on today.
yeah.
What can you do to make a difference today? Make a difference for you or your family.
Ben Maldonado, everybody, the futurist using the epic cycle to direct people that have open minds to preparing for what may be down the line. Thank you, Ben.
My pleasure, Dale. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. Dale, you have a terrific Thanksgiving, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and
Blake.
someone said we have face every day to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do a great service. Let me tell you, I try to listen every single morning because you get this perspective from multiple people about what they see and what the angle is, and that's one of the things about trading is nobody has it all figured out. And when you listen and you have an open mind, new information comes to you that can help you. And I think you get that from you guys every morning. So I appreciate what you guys do.
Okay, much respect to you, Ben, and happy Thanksgiving and the holidays, and we'll get together next winter And I know it sounds like a long time, but it's not. We're only
No,
a month away. So I'll get in touch with you, and we'll see where we're at in the Epoch Cycle. Say February-ish. Okay.
sounds great, Dale.
And
Looking
you could
forward to it.
also maybe be my Valentine. All right.
That would be great.
All right. So that's it, everyone. Hope you enjoyed Ben. I always enjoy talking to him, and hope you've had a good week. We've laid it out on the court for you guys. Been some great ideas by the team this week, and have a great weekend. Don't just count your pips, count your blessings, and we'll do it all over again next week. You're welcome, Joe, Forex Gal, sell bonds. Okay. Adios, everyone.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.